welcome back to ADHD Realities, where we talk all things ADHD and sexuality in ways even the science is still lacking. I am the gal that's bringing you the narrative and discussions missing in the research and even within the professional field itself. I'm your host, Dr. Leanne Porneman, clinical sexologist, ADHD expert and researcher, and ADHD haver. And this is the place I get to spew a lot of information, chaotically, no structure whatsoever, in hopes that it's going to provide some empowerment and a new perspective to your experiences. So today, I want to actually talk more about what it really means to, quote, prioritize your partner when you have ADHD, and why that phrase alone has probably ruined more relationships than it actually has helped. Because listen, I've actually sat with so many couples where one partner is saying, "You don't show me I matter." And then the other one is in the corner sobbing in this guilt. Like, what are you talking about? I literally think about you constantly. But I forgot to text back because I blinked and it was Thursday. There's no rhyme or reason. And this is not about not caring. This is about executive function breakdowns, internalized shame, and society's idea of prioritizing as some kind of magical romantic ESP. And guess what? It's not the end all and be all. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So first and foremost, we have to talk about how in our culture, we're taught that if someone really loves you, they're going to do all the things, right? Remembering your birthday, planning spontaneous dates, finishing a text message, folding your underwear into nice little origami shapes. Maybe that's a little dramatic, but who fucking knows these days? But the problem becomes that those things that I just talked about, those models of what it looks like to prioritize, are straight up made for neurotypical brains. Because they're assuming that you have a brain that holds context across time, that you have this emotional memory that floats like a banner at the top of your computer screen. It assumes that we have an internal drive that's powering through every single distraction. A magical clock inside of our soul and buzzes when needed by saying, "Hey, your love needs you right now." But I want to be very transparent with you. That is not necessarily the experience a lot of us ADHDers are having. And this is where the conflict becomes. Because for an ADHD experience, and again, these experiences are going to be on a spectrum. Everything that you're hearing today in today's episode is not to be generalized. You cannot do that. If you're doing that, you're going to harm yourself and others. And what I mean by that is you're going to hold yourself back. Because what you're going to assume is that there is this quick fix and this medical model-like approach to navigating ADHD. And that's not the case at all. We are all unique and individual. Our ADHD is experienced on a spectrum. And so please understand that this isn't this is what it is and that's it. Because I guarantee you, some of you who are listening today, you may not resonate with every example I give because there's so many other examples that are your story and it doesn't discredit it. But when we are talking about our experiences around this concept of prioritization, right? What it can look like is if it's not in front of my face, it then may not exist. If I don't write it down, poof, gone. And if I'm already hyper-focused on something else, good fucking luck getting in. And so when someone says, if you really cared, you wouldn't forget, what we hear is you suck at love. And what really sucks is that ends up sending us most of the time into this shame freeze or the urgent response for survival of, "I promise I'll try harder." And that becomes a loop. And that doesn't actually help anyone. That actually makes it worse. And the reason most of us are saying, I promise I'll try harder, is because you truly don't understand what the fuck is going on. You know how you feel, but you truly don't understand what's going on. And what ends up happening is when we do the "I promise I'll try harder, it's implied that you have made a note of the concern and you have an active plan moving forward to not make it happen again. And the problem becomes is if you don't really know what's causing you to struggle to show up in the way that your partner is looking for to begin with, you're never going to be able to show up differently. And so now your partner sees it even worse because now you've had this conversation over and over and over again, and your partner now has expressed how much they've been hurt or they're upset over and over again, and you, quote, still haven't done anything. You must now really not care. So this is why understanding and having the perspective of what ADHD is, especially when we're talking about our executive functioning, is so freaking important. Because let me tell you something, forgetting your partner's love language doesn't mean you don't love them. It means your brain needs a sticky note. We need accommodations. That's all. Whether you can be okay with that or not is a whole other conversation. But that, at the bulk of it, is where we want to go. And so here's what we don't talk enough about, right? What prioritizing actually requires in terms of brain function. So I'm going to give you a little executive function 101 in as much of a non-clinical way as I possibly can, okay? Buckle your seatbelts. I have no idea where I'm going with this, so we're just spewing. But the first thing that comes to my mind is working memory. And that's a really important one because you need to hold the thought that your partner is feeling off or needs that extra attention. And if your brain drops that, it's gone. Like an Instagram story. That was the first thing that popped into my head. You then also need to have a level of task initiation, right? You remembered, cool, we got somewhere here, but now you have to do something about it. You have to text them. You have to set the thing up. Say the words. And a lot of individuals with ADHD, we're Olympic level avoiders when emotions or pressure are involved. And that generally has to do with our upbringing. Again, can't be generalized. Not every individual with ADHD has had a upbringing where we haven't learned emotions or we've learned people-pleasing tendencies because everyone keeps telling us how much we suck. But then you also have to bring in this concept of cognitive flexibility, which is our ability to switch gears from, let's say, cleaning the junk drawer. I'm going to gravitate towards something I always fucking do. That junk drawer, by the way, is always something that I clean. And it feels so good when you clean the damn drawer and everything is nice. And then like 10 minutes later, it's just chaos. Anyway, I digress. But it's the going from one task to then giving your partner the emotional attention they need. And that's not easy because we get stuck. It's the task switching here, right? And it becomes like mental molasses stuck. And this also can cause us to become dysregulated depending on our level of attention in that junk drawer. The other thing that also is very common that's needed to be understood is this ability for us to time management and plan. Because knowing when to do the thing and not letting it get eaten by all the I'll do it laters is going to be a straight up art form for a lot of us. One we didn't learn because executive function is like this drunk intern running the control room. And with all of that said, you also are in need of this ability to self-monitor, right? Knowing you've dropped the ball, you fucked up in terms of how your partner is seeing you, noticing their distance in the relationship without someone pointing it out like a crime scene investigation. That's really hard. And that right there is something I see all the time in relationships. I even see that with my husband. My husband really sucks at the self-monitoring piece where he can't really pick up on, oh, she shifted. And so sometimes I'll then get into the loop of getting more angry and frustrated at him that he's still not picking up on it. And that is me continuously always having to unlearn the neurotypical expectations in our relationships here, people. It's never ending, but that's in real time. And keep in mind, when even one of these things are wonky, because again, we're all on a spectrum. So some individuals might have better time management and planning. Some individuals might have better self-monitoring, right? We can't generalize this, but it's important to understand it. But keep in mind, when one of these things indeed is wonky, it's going to look like you don't care because we are being compared through a neurotypical expectation. And that's not fair to us because that doesn't mean we don't care. And it really honestly means more about access points to do what our heart already wants to do. But we can't get those access points if we ourselves still believe we're supposed to be showing up in a certain way in terms of how we get there, and our partner feels that way. We're never going to feel safe to do it. And if you don't have the education and knowledge of why the thing is happening to begin with, you're never going to have the momentum to be able to move forward. You're going to stay stagnant in it. So I'm going to say this very loud for the people in the back whomever, wherever you're listening to this, ADHD does not discredit love. How our brains are functioning does not get to indicate whether or not our love is real or not. And most of the time, clients that I work with are struggling with those rigid expectations that then create, a lot of hostility, a lot of sadness, a lot of disappointment, a lot of assumptions that aren't actually true to where the person truly is in terms of how they feel. And so we don't just remember to prioritize someone. We need a system that reminds us how and when. Otherwise, we're just holding a heart full of love with no roadmap. And a lot of the times, things like that we can be doing to kind of create more of this prioritization in a supportive way for ADHD brains is something like shared calendars and specifically putting in emotional check-ins. Block that shit off. Now, keep in mind, scheduling can be very complicated, and it can be a thing that can work sometimes and then a thing that doesn't work other times, and that is where the frustration can definitely come into play, because as ADHDers, we can't promise where the fuck we're going to be when we put something in our calendar. I put shit in my calendar all the time. It's a roadmap of keeping me kind of going where I need to go, but guess what? ADHD is a real damn thing. And so sometimes, even though at 2 o'clock it tells me to do X, Y, and Z, I may not have the executive functioning to do it. I may not have the attention span. I may have gotten wrapped up in something else that definitely still needed to be done, and I am definitely not coming out of that because it's important. This is also where self-compassion and grieving us and who we are is really important, vital. And that's where we work with therapists and individuals who are truly trained and qualified to help navigate this, because it's really important. But at the end of the day, it's still a great approach to help ensure that you're trying to show up a little bit more in terms of this prioritization piece. Yeah, another thing, yes, alarms. They do definitely help. I like to actually put alarms in my calendar to remind me to give my kids hugs. Now, for some of you, you might be like, how the fuck can you forget to give your kids hugs? Very fucking easily, actually. And the reason being for that is not because I don't love them. It's because, for me, I am go, 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 go. My brain is constantly going. And if it's not, I get restless and I need to do something else to get me to go, 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 right? So what ends up happening is something like a hug, unless I'm really thinking about it and I see it as something in that moment that is going to make me feel good or help me or move me or motivate me in a certain way, and this is all brain function, by the way. This isn't like conscious fucking thought here. I'm not going to go do the thing. And I'm going to miss opportunities and moments that I know I would value and appreciate. And so, yeah, the reminder helps me stop, pause, and go do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Post-it notes are also fucking great, by the way, unless you are not a fan of them plastered all over your house. It's a preference, I guess. But you can literally put in your physical environment on the fridge, somewhere where you're actually going to see it, though, right? You can't just put it somewhere and think that's enough. There's an extra step here that we tend to miss, or a lot of people tend to miss to describe. You have to put it in a place now that you're actually going to see, right? Putting a post-it note somewhere that you're going to see where it reminds you, hey, dipshit, they had a rough day. Hug first. Don't launch into weird facts about the spiders or some shit, right? Now, keep in mind, I don't believe people who forget these things are dipshits. This is my humor. This is how me and my husband talk all the time. So I just feel like I have to put a disclaimer there in case anyone thinks I just called somebody who can't remember a dipshit, because I didn't. Oh, God, we live in interesting times where I have to even say that. But let me be clear, though, about something else. Planning love doesn't make it fake. And that's going to be something you, your partners, have to really sit down with, because it doesn't unless you want it to be. Writing it down doesn't make it less meaningful. If anything, it shows how hard you're working to love with intention, even when your brain won't make it easy in terms of how it is being expected of you. And that right there is also really important, sitting down and literally word for word laying out what the fuck those expectations really are. How are you going to be able to meet them if you don't know what they are? And not having a conversation where you have to store this as memory. You write that shit down on a piece of paper. Or record your conversation with your partner, as long as they consent, and or you're in a one-sided party state where you can record without them knowing. Which, now that I say that out loud, I don't know if that's necessarily the best to do in a relationship, so don't do that. And I'm not editing this out. This is actually pure ADHD gold right here. Have a thought, process it after the fact, then come back and realize, that was a little impulsive, Leanne. Anyway, going back to everything. When someone with ADHD goes to set a reminder to show up for you, again, we have to be real that that's not being robotic. It's strategic affection. It's neurodivergent romance. Call it what it is. It's fucking effort. It's somebody trying to show up in a way that's actually going to be more in tune and in line with how their brain is processing and how their brain is wired. And there's nothing wrong with that. And again, if there is something wrong with something here, that means that you have to have a discussion. Are your expectations more important than the realities of switching it up to really help set up an environment and a relationship that's going to work for both of you? There's a lot of underlying layers of work here that this episode is making it sound very easy. This is not like the step-by-step procedure that you're just going, poof, everything's going to be fine. A lot of emotions and feels go into how we are showing up in our relationships. Because, side note, we were never taught how to be in a relationship. When you really look back at our childhoods and all the models and narratives and scripts that we got, we were not taught how to be in a relationship. We're over here just fucking winging this, and most of us are not doing a good job. But getting back to the more important stuff. When the you don't care isn't the problem is an important thing to kind of zone in here, because let's get into the messy part, right? The fight loop that I was talking about before. I see it all the time. The one partner saying, you don't prioritize me. The individual with ADHD, I'm trying. Both spiral into the shame, the frustration, the shutdown, the rinse, the repeat over and over until either a divorce or you stay together and you're just festering in it and it blows over in a really negative way, right? What's happening here is that both people are fighting ghosts. Not each other. Ghosts of those expectations and the interpretations. And a lot of ADHD individuals, we feel like failures because the execution doesn't match the actual then intention. And then partners feel emotionally abandoned because they're used to care being shown, not felt, but hidden behind a dopamine shortage. And this is what I call the double invisible labor trap. Neurotypical partner, or ADHD partner, by the way, just because you got ADHD does not mean you're coming packed with those neurotypical expectations, but they're carrying the emotional reminder system in some capacity. ADHD partner carrying the guilt, the self-loathing of this I'm too much, never enough shit. And I think it's fair to be honest here. Most of us have zero models for ADHD relationships that are both functional and compassionate, let alone a, quote, typical, I fucking hate that word, but typical relationship. And so here's where it's like an important reframe that we have to go to. Because instead of asking, why aren't you showing up the way I need? Try, what helps you remember what matters? Then build from there. And that question, though, you have to be very careful because when you ask it, what helps you remember? The problem is that if your brain is struggling to literally remember and store memories, part of the what helps you remember is looking outside of your brain and looking into your environment and asking what environmental pieces can we add in our environment to help produce the reminder. Just like the alarm clock, right? So I want to toss the rom-com manual out and create something ADHD friendly, okay? Because real talk, okay? Being a priority doesn't have to mean spontaneity. The concept and the word of spontaneity is just such a buzzkill. It really kills a lot of shit for a lot of people. And it doesn't have to look like what everyone else is doing. Because ADHD prioritizing might mean scheduling nothing time together, where neither of you are performing or fixing. It's using check-in questions you can pull when your brain blanks out, sharing a Google Doc of stuff, of the things that you want to do for the person when you're able to remember, having that to go back to. Celebrating the effort, not just the timing. And I use the word effort here purposely because it's not about consistency, it's about persistency. Showing up when you can. and trying different things and ways of manipulation of the environment to help you get there. That's important because it's also not easy. And not for nothing, relationships aren't easy. So if your partner needs support to show they care, that doesn't mean it's performative. It means it's planned care or purpose, or on purpose, if you will. And if you're the one with ADHD, I just need to just pause really quickly. And I need you to listen carefully, okay? You are not a bad partner for needing systems to show up in the way that has been taught to all of us as the end-all gold standard of showing up. You are a good partner who knows yourself and is trying to do it right, even if your brain is refusing to auto-run that love playlist and show up in a way that just isn't meant for you in that specific way. And I can't stress it enough. This has nothing to do with incapabilities. This has everything to do with access. So we're going to kind of land this plane of prioritization. This is quite a short and sweet butter educational episode. But here's what I want you to take from all of this. Prioritization is not about feelings. It's about access. If your brain needs help getting there, that's not a fucking flaw unless you want it to be. If you want to get stuck in that thought pattern, then stay there. But it does not have to be that because it's not the reality. It's not a flaw. It's functional. And if you're in a relationship where people are misreading your intention as indifference, that's, again, a communication problem, not a love problem. So the best go-to is ditching the shame. But that's not as easy as going, okay, grab shame, throw it out the window. You have to work. You have to go to therapy. You have to work on communicating with your partner, getting vulnerable. All these things are hard. Sometimes you can do it together on your own, and sometimes you need that support and help, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with reaching out to a qualified professional to help you work through these. The pure definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So if you and your partner or partners can't produce the results that you're looking for, maybe it's time to look outward. Build a system. And remember, you're not forgettable. Your brain just forgets. You care deeply. You just need a map. Or better yet, not a map, but like the supportive ramp to get to the expression part in the way in which is being asked of you by your partner, if that is something that you want to be giving. And love doesn't need to be effortless to be real. It just needs to be supported. And I urge you to have your partners listen to this. If you felt so fucking seen today, have them listen. Educate yourselves on executive functioning, what it really means. How does it show up? Reach out to me if you want to work with me. I'm the qualified professional. Hello. And as always, I appreciate you being here. If this resonates with you, if you feel that this is important to share, please share it. The only way my episodes reach anybody is if they're shared, if they're liked. Leave a review, leave a comment, get the algorithming. And as always, it's all about setting our environments, our relationships, and our sex up for success in ways that work with our brain, not against them. And until next time, everyone, be well.